37 people witnessed the attack. Some of them heard something, some of them saw something, and no one called the police. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Something you probably don't know about me, I really love true crime. I'm obsessed with the cases, and I really think that people should talk about them more because they need to have coverage, and people that are still missing to this day, it's important to not forget their name and their face so they can be found one day. And when I was studying, I stumbled across a case of a young woman that was living at the time in New York City, and she was attacked. Her name was Catherine Suzanne Genovese. She was Italian-American woman. She was born on July 7th, 1935. She was living with her parents and her 4 siblings. She was the oldest one. She was living in a neighborhood that was mainly Italian and Irish families. After her mother witnessed a murder, her family decided to move. Her parents and her 4 siblings decided to move to Canada, but Kitty decided to stay in New York because she was going to get married that year. But her marriage didn't last long. At the end of that year, she was already divorced. After she moved in her own apartment, she started working in bars as a bartender, and she was arrested for bookkeeping. She was taking horse racing bets from the customers. After she was arrested, she took another job as a bartender. There she became a manager really fast, and with working double shifts, she managed to save some money and intended to use them to open her own Italian restaurant. In 1963, she met her new girlfriend, Mary, and they lived in Kitty's apartment. On March 13th, 1964, she finished work around 2:30 in the morning, and she got in her car and started driving home. She arrived at home around 3 a.m. and she parked in the nearby parking lot that was around 30 meters from the door of her apartment building, and then she got out of the car and started walking towards the door. That's when she was attacked from behind, and she was stabbed twice in the back. Then she started screaming for help, and so many people, as you will see later, saw or heard the initial attack. She yelled, and then a man opened his window and started yelling to the attacker to leave her alone. He got scared and he ran away. Kitty, seriously injured, slowly made to her apartment building out of the view of any witnesses, and she fell down on the floor. 10 minutes later, the attacker came back, and he was trying to find a Kitty all around the perimeter of the building, and he found her laying down on her floor. She was barely conscious. He stabbed her several more times before sexually assaulting her. Then he stole $49 from her, and he just ran away. Shortly after the attack, her neighbor Sofia Farrar saw Kitty on the floor and went out to hold her in her arms. And then another neighbor, Carl Ross, around 3:50 in the morning, saw Kitty, and before he calling the police or ambulance or something, he called his friends to ask for an advice what to do. Then eventually he called the ambulance, and the ambulance arrived around 4:15 a.m. and picked up Kitty, but sadly she died on the way to the hospital. Kitty had multiple stab wounds, and one of them was directly to her lung. That was the stab wound that killed her, and she also had injuries on her arms, which meant that she tried to defend herself and she tried to fight back. The initial suspect that the police had was her girlfriend Mary. That they were questioning her for 6 hours straight. They were questioning her about the relationships and how things were going with them and stuff like that. But on March 19th, the police arrested a man named Winston Moseley for suspected robbery, and while he was questioned, he confessed to killing Kitty and to killing and sexually assaulting other 2 women. Moseley was 29 years old when he murdered Kitty. He was father of 3 children. He was married. He was working as tab operator. He was preparing punched cards. Those were some cards that were used for data storage for digital computers at the time. And as I said, while he was questioned, he confessed to killing and sexually assaulting 3 women. He confessed to 30 or 40 robberies, but he was charged only with the murder of Kitty Genovese because before he confessed to killing another woman named Barbara, some other men already had confessed to that, and it was conflicting for the police, so they couldn't charge him until they proved who did it. He told the police that he saw Kitty while she was waiting on a traffic light, and he just followed her home and decided to kill her. When they asked about the motive, he said that his motive was just to kill a woman because women were easier to fight and they never fought back. His trial began on June 8, 1964, and initially he pleaded not guilty, but then he changed his plea to not guilty for insanity reasons. But when he was given IQ test and psychiatric evaluations were done, he had 135 score on the IQ test, and he was considered that he is a necrophiliac. During his testimony, he confessed to everything. After 7 hours of deliberating, the jury on June 11th, around 10:30 p.m., came with guilty verdict, and he was sentenced to death. In 1967, his sentence was reduced from death sentence to life imprisonment with possibility of a parole. He had 3 parole hearings and he was denied in all of them. He died in prison in 2016, serving 52 years, and that made him one of the longest serving prisoners in the state of New York. One of the most shocking and bizarre facts, information about this case is that 37 people witnessed the attack. Some of them heard something, some of them saw something, and no one called the police. No one called for help, no one tried to help her, no one did anything. Her case is still written in all psychology books, and her case made the psychologists study the behavior of all the witnesses around, and that's how bystander effect was born. Bystander effect is a social psychological claim that individuals are less likely to offer help to a victim if there's more people present. That means that, for example, if you see an accident on the highway, you will think that someone already called and you're less likely to call for help. Her case inspired the creation of the 911 system, so something good at least came from it, and her name will be never forgotten, at least not psychology students, because we are doing exams on this, we are studying this, we are studying her case. And before I go, I just wanted to say that if you see someone being attacked, or if you hear something, or if you see an accident on the highway, don't think about that. Just call for help. You may save someone's life, and it's important. We need to help each other. So just don't think about it. No one called. So what if someone called? Just call for help. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe if you haven't already, and stay safe and stay positive, and I will see you soon. Bye.